Everyone knows the CIA ran secret experiments on people. MKUltra, unwitting subjects, LSD in the water supply. There were congressional hearings, declassified files, a public reckoning. What almost nobody knows is that the KGB started earlier, went further, and never had a hearing. No whistleblowers that survived, no files that weren't shredded, no reckoning of any kind. These are the 5 most covered-up experiments Soviet intelligence ever ran, ranked by how far they actually went. And number 1 involves a substance with no known antidote. It has never been officially released. It was used on a street in England in 2018. Experiment 5. Sleep deprivation as a confession machine. This one started in the 1930s. KGB predecessors, first the Cheka, then the NKVD, discovered something early. Sleep deprivation didn't just weaken a prisoner. It rewrote what a prisoner believed to be true. The program ran out of Lubyanka's lower detention levels for decades. No pain, no physical torture, just rotating teams of interrogators, maintaining constant low-level conversation. Questions that didn't need answering. Observations that didn't need responses. Hour after hour, day after day. The documented threshold. Somewhere between 96 and 108 hours, most subjects could no longer distinguish between what they had actually done and what they were being told they had done. The confessions weren't screamed, they were calm, cooperative, detailed. But here's what stayed classified the longest. The program wasn't designed to extract information. It was designed to manufacture it. The confessions from Stalin's Great Purge show a consistency across hundreds of separate interrogations. Specific phrases, identical structures, appearing in files from different cities, different years, different interrogators. Researchers now believe those subjects didn't confess to crimes, they were authored into them. The program was considered effective, but too slow. They needed something faster. Experiment 4. Rewriting what a person believes. The Soviet Union had something the CIA didn't. Pavlov. Ivan Pavlov's conditioning research had by the 1940s been absorbed into state security as a practical framework. If behavior could be conditioned, so could loyalty. If loyalty could be conditioned, so could its opposite. The NKVD, later the KGB, ran a series of experiments through affiliated psychiatric institutes in Leningrad. Subjects were political prisoners, returning émigrés, suspected foreign agents. The program combined pharmacological sedation with directed audio sessions, scripted ideological content, played on repeat during chemically induced states of reduced resistance. The aim wasn't a confession. The aim was to produce a person who genuinely believed they had been wrong. A defector named Alexander Karkov, who worked as an administrator in the Leningrad psychiatric system in the 1950s, described one case, a university lecturer, detained for distributing Western literature. After 11 weeks in the program, he was released. He returned to his university. He publicly denounced 3 colleagues. He had no memory of the program. As far as he was concerned, he had undergone voluntary ideological counseling and emerged with clarity. There was nothing to resist. He didn't know there had been anything to resist. Experiment 3. Testing substances on people who didn't know what was being tested. In 1953, the CIA began running LSD experiments on unwitting subjects under MKUltra. That program ran until 1973. When it was exposed, it was described as one of the worst ethical violations in American intelligence history. The KGB had been running equivalent programs since 1947. Soviet psychochemical research, designated under various code names, the most persistent being Facility K, tested compounds on prison populations across the Gulag system. The subjects were not informed. The substances included early hallucinogens, experimental barbiturates, and several compounds with no Western equivalent, synthesized specifically for the program. The documented aim was twofold. First, identify substances that produced reliable compliance without producing memory of compliance. Second, identify the threshold at which a subject could be made to act against their own survival instinct. That second aim is what separates this from MKUltra. CIA experiments tested the limits of suggestibility. Soviet experiments, according to Vasily Mitrokhin's archive, the most extensive intelligence defection in Cold War history, tested whether a person could be chemically made to want to die, not through despair, through chemistry. The results were filed at the highest available classification level. When the Soviet Union collapsed in August 1991, KGB archivists had approximately 72 hours before external access became possible. The K facility documentation was among the first material shredded. What Mitrokhin saved were summaries, enough to confirm the program existed, not enough to know how far it went. But none of that is the most disturbing part. Everything described so far had administrators' oversight, subjects who were officially already prisoners of the state. What comes next had none of that. Experiment 2, the laboratory that didn't officially exist. It has several names in the documents that survived. Laboratory number 1, the chamber, the camera. It was established under Lenin, expanded under Stalin, and continued in various forms under various organizational umbrellas through every Soviet leadership that followed. When the KGB was formally dissolved in 1991, no official order was ever issued closing the camera's research program. The mandate was specific: develop substances that kill without detection, poisons that wouldn't appear in a standard autopsy, delivery methods that wouldn't leave a mark. The testing protocol was documented by Pavel Sudoplatov, a former KGB general who wrote about the program after the Soviet collapse. Subjects were death row prisoners transferred to the laboratory without their families being notified. They were told they were receiving medical treatment as part of a humanitarian program. They were given the substances. They were observed. They died. Their deaths were recorded as natural causes. The compounds developed included a fast-acting cardiac agent that mimicked heart attacks, a neurological compound that produced stroke-like symptoms with no vascular evidence, and a substance designated K2, carbylamine choline chloride, that Sudoplatov described as producing death within 15 minutes, with no trace in a standard toxicology screen. K2 was tested on at least 45 prisoners. The exact number is unconfirmed because the primary records were shredded in August 1991. In September 1978, a Bulgarian dissident named Georgy Markov was walking across Waterloo Bridge in London. He felt a small sting in the back of his leg. A man with an umbrella apologized and walked away. Markov developed a fever that evening. He died 4 days later. His autopsy found a platinum pellet, 1.7 millimeters in diameter, embedded in his thigh. The pellet had contained ricin, a camera-developed delivery mechanism. The man with the umbrella was never identified. But Markov wasn't the endpoint. The camera didn't stop with ricin. Experiment 1, the weapon that outlasted the Soviet Union. In the 1970s, a classified project designated Foliant began. The aim was to develop a new class of nerve agents, more potent than anything previously synthesized, specifically designed to defeat NATO chemical protection equipment, undetectable by the monitoring systems then used by Western military forces. The agents developed under Foliant are now known collectively as Novichok. Some variants are estimated to be between 5 and 10 times more lethal than VX, which was previously the most dangerous nerve agent in documented use. Testing followed the camera's established protocol. Prisoners, subjects with no outside contact, no consent, no names in any accessible record. Vilmir Zayanov was a chemist who worked at the State Research Institute during Foliant's active development phase. In 1992, after the Soviet collapse, he attempted to go public. He was arrested. The charge was treason for revealing a state secret. The secret was that Russia was developing illegal chemical weapons in violation of international treaties it had signed. He was eventually released. He moved to the United States. He published what he knew. What he could not publish, The complete synthesis routes for several Novichok variants remain classified. Mirzayanov stated publicly that at least 3 variants were developed for which no antidote has been confirmed to exist. In March 2018, Sergei Skripal and his daughter were found unconscious on a bench in Salisbury, England. A British police officer who attended the scene was contaminated. Months later, a local woman named Dawn Sturgess found a discarded perfume bottle nearby. She applied it to her wrists. She died 11 days later. The substance had been developed in a Soviet laboratory, tested on human beings who were never told what was happening to them. Refined over 2 decades. Deployed on a residential street in southern England, 30 years after the state that created it ceased to exist. The 2 men identified as suspects appeared on Russian state television. They said they had come to Salisbury to see the cathedral. The formula for the variant used has never been officially released. The scientists who developed it are in no public record. The prisoners who died in testing have no names in any accessible archive. The camera began testing compounds in Moscow in the 1920s. It never officially stopped. Click the video on screen if you want more, and subscribe if you trust everything your government tells you.